Hey queens, kings, and everyone else in between or outside the scene. I'm Caleb Melan, aka K Melan, and today we'll be discussing rape culture. So yeah, let's get into it. And so, what is rape culture? Rape culture is an environment in which rape is prevalent and in which sexual violence is normalized and excused in the media and popular culture. Rape culture is perpetrated through the use of misogynistic language, objectification of women's bodies, and a glamorization of sexual violence, thereby creating a society that disregards women's rights and safety. So yeah, that's basically the gist of rape culture. And immediately, as I start this video, I want to direct you to the description, where I list other YouTubers. I don't know how many I'm going to find, but I definitely already have one which should be the top. I don't know the channel's name, but I've been watching them for a bit now, and they're amazing. So please check them out. They did a video on this. I probably will link that video in the comments. And yes, let's move on now to discuss more about rape culture. So, examples of rape culture: blaming the victim, aka she asked for it; trivializing sexual assault, the boys will be boys; sexual explicit jokes; tolerance of sexual harassment; inflating false rape report statistics; publicly scrutinizing the victim's dress, mental state, motives, and history, which to me is the most disgusting thing about rape culture right there. The whole victim blaming. Jesus Christ. And then, wow. Imagine I know how to say that word. Anyways, I'm going to skip it. Gender violence in movies and television, defining manhood as dominant and sexually aggressive, defining womanhood as submissive and sexually passive, pressure on men to score, pressure on women to not appear cold, assuming presumptuous women get raped, assuming that men don't get raped, or that only weak men get raped, which is completely false. Wow, first F-bomb in the first 3 minutes. Refusing to take rape accusations seriously and teaching women to avoid getting raped. These are some pretty good examples of rape culture here. Let's go through them. I'll go through a few of them here. So like I said, the victim blaming is really terrible. They especially go after their mental state or their dress, a lot more. But then, if you don't know, I listen to Delilah Bond, which she actually has a song. If I can find it, I'll put the photo and title here on the screen. And yes, she actually has a song talking about this exact dumb thing about how you going to criticize a victim's dress when, and then the motives, they always go after the motives, like, oh, she wanted it, or what was she doing like this, which kind of relates to the dress of, oh, why was you wearing this if you're not going to do anything, right? In a mental state, one of the worst types of victim blaming right there is the mental state, because it's not only attacking the victim, it's not only doing that, but it's also just attacking their mental state, which you have no idea about. And it's just awful. And then inflating false rape report statistics is just something else. I don't know how you can be so terrible. Like at that point, you know what you're doing is completely wrong, and you're doing it anyways. Like, please stop it. The boys will be boys. That. Please stop this mentality. It is absolutely insane to justify anything because a boy will be a boy. It's crazy because actually women like mothers, they would justify the boys doing certain things because of this. And I'm like, how is a woman, do you justify that? It's just the same, but it's the world that we live in. Um, how everybody was brought up to believe in certain things. Let me catch my breath for a bit because I am out of breath. I'm kind of getting a little heated from this, so give me a minute. Okay, I'm back after a little breather, and yes, the she asked for it. So terrible. Once again, kind of relates to the dress or the motives. They kind of blame the victim. They literally blaming the victim and saying that she asked for it. Oh, she was wearing this. She was doing this. Um, you know, and then the defining manhood and womanhood stereotypes, shape stereotypes, which I don't understand how in the world, as a modern day world that we live in, you can still have these stereotypes because, I mean, I'm right here. I'm someone that completely breaks this in so many different ways. And there's plenty of other people in the world that do the exact same. I don't know how this is still the stereotypes that people believe in, but it's all to further their justification for rape and violence against a woman. The pressure on men to score, or like, how woman is seen as dirty or nasty if she sleep with tons of people, but if a man does it, it's like, oh snap, look how many bodies you got, and yeah, let's move on now. So, victim blaming. One reason people blame a victim is to distance themselves from an unpleasant occurrence and thereby confirm their own invulnerability to the risk. By labeling or accusing the victim, others can see the victim as different from themselves. People reassure themselves by thinking, because I am not like her, because I do not do that, this would never happen to me. We need to help people understand that this is not a helpful reaction. Exactly. Because a lot of people will think this, like, oh, I wasn't doing what she was doing. Oh no, this is not going to happen to me. They were bad. They were doing this and that. And it's awful because it puts these mindsets in people that, if you're even doing something that shouldn't even be seen as wrong, is wrong and you shouldn't do it. Otherwise, you deserve to be raped or sexually assaulted. And it's awful. Because it's like nothing should justify that. And yet we have literal other women, or to be even more inclusive, female presenting people in this world that do think like this. And it's sad because this shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't judge other people for doing certain things and say, oh, that's why what happened to them happened to them. It's just awful. So why is it dangerous? Victim blaming attitudes marginalize the victim/survivor and make it harder to come forward and report the abuse. Exactly. This is why there's so many cases of abuse that people just don't know about, will never come out to the public, because people are so scared to come out because people know that they will be criticized. Every little thing they did will be criticized because they are the victim. So if the survivor knows that you or society blames her for the abuse, she will not feel safe or comfortable coming forward and talking to her. Yes. Victim blaming attitudes also reinforce what the abuser has been saying all along, that It is the victim's fault. This is not happening. It is not the victim's fault or responsibility to fix the situation. It is the abuser's choice. By engaging in victim blaming attitudes, society allows abusers to perpetrate relationship abuse or sexual assault while avoiding accountability for his or her actions. Exactly. Victim blaming is so dangerous and so harmful in so many different ways. And this only talks about a few here. Also, if you go down in the description, you will see my source for this. And I do believe it's Inside Southern. I do believe. Yes, I do think it is Inside Southern. And so let's move on to what does victim blaming look like? Example of victim blaming attitude. She must have provoked him into being abusive. They both need to change. Right. Exactly. Say there's a male and a female relationship. If a male does something in that relationship, it would be put on the female saying, oh, she did something. For example, if a woman divorces her husband, people will attack her and be like, she did this because X, Y, and Z. When in reality, it's most likely nothing of what they're saying, and it's just in fact that guy was terrible. But what happens after people do that is that not only the victim feels unsafe and feels like can't really trust anybody because so many people in their lives, or if they published it, made it public, people, so many people have attacked them. And then that also influences the husband's mind or male mind that, oh, this is okay. Yes, I didn't do anything wrong. And so that can lead to a lot of harm. And so, reality, this statement assumes that the victim is equally to blame for the abuse, when in reality, abuse is a conscious choice made by the abuser. Exactly. Abusers have a choice in how they react to their partner's actions. Options besides abuse include walking away, talking in a moment, respectfully explaining why an action is frustrating, breaking up, etc. Additionally, abuse is not about individual actions that incite the abuser to hurt his partner, but rather about the abuser's feeling of entitlement to do whatever he wants to his partner. Exactly. There's a lot of men in this world that feels like they just have the right to do whatever they want to a woman because of the fact that they're a man. And it's really fucking disgusting. And it's probably why there's so many transphobic people, because they don't quite understand why someone doesn't want to be a man, right? It's awful. As well as the fact that obviously they don't think a woman could be a man. I'm saying woman don't want to be a man. I'm using this as just like the standard stuff. Obviously, trans man is not a woman and never was. And yes. But let's move on. When friends and family remain neutral about the abuse and say that both people need to change, they are citing and supporting the abusive partner and making it less likely that the survivor will seek support. Exactly. Basically what I was talking about. You basically affirming what the abuser did and really making the survivor / victim feel even worse, which is just horrible. Remaining neutral about it doesn't help anything. It really doesn't. It's just as worse as being on the abuser's quote unquote side or whatever. But let's move on to the next thing. Okay, so we're at the next / last part here that I'm going to talk about. How can men and women combat rape culture and victim blaming? Avoid using language that justifies or degrades women. Speak out if you hear someone else making an offensive joke or trivializing rape. If a friend says they have been raped, take your friend seriously and be supportive. Think critically about immediate messages about women, men, relationships, and violence. Be respectful of others' physical space, even in casual situations. Let survivors know that it's not their fault. Hold abusers accountable for their actions. Do not let them make excuses like blaming the victim, alcohol, or drugs for their behavior. Always communicate with sexual partners and do not assume consent. Important, very important. I'm going to say that before I finish. That's very important. Do not assume consent. Unless the victim has explicitly said they consented, do not assume consent. There's no reason to do that. Okay, and define your own manhood or womanhood. Do not let stereotypes shape your actions. Exactly. Be an active bystander. So basically, here is saying if you ever see or hear any type of rape culture happening, please stand out and do not just let it happen. Actually, another Delilah song actually talks about this as well. I will put it on screen here. It talks about just how some people just laugh it off, join in even on some of these jokes about, oh yeah, rape and whatever. Like they laugh about it, and it's like there's nothing funny here. That like it's just something normal, and basically that's what rape culture is trying to do. Trying to make sure rape is normal, trying to make it normal, and we cannot let that happen. Because it's one of the worst things that can ever happen to somebody, and we shouldn't let rape culture influence people's minds to the point where it is seen as just a thing in life, when in reality it should never have ever been this prevalent, let alone becoming normalized. Let's not take it there. And yes, if a friend says they have been raped, take your friend seriously and be supportive. Do not brush it off. Do not act like maybe it's less serious than it is, or assume that it may be lying, or even be suspicious that it may be lying. I don't think you should do that, because of the fact you should like assume that they're not lying. Now, a lot of people may lie about certain things for certain reasons, but in my opinion, you should never assume that someone is lying, nor should you ever suspect that somebody is lying. Always at first, always be supportive and take it seriously until you absolutely know it's not true. Always take it seriously. And do not let these stereotypes define you. Make sure you make out your own person. Make sure you're on your own person. That is definitely an important message. And let survivors know that it's not their fault as well. Because, I mean, I was preyed upon, and a lot of therapists have told me, yeah, it's not my fault. And I think I really needed to hear that to actually believe it, even though I hear from them. Because even though I've heard it before, actually hearing it from them, hearing it from more people, like, okay, this is not my fault, and whatever, I think it helped a bit. And yeah, please hold abusers accountable for their actions. Do not let them make excuses, because there's no excuse for being abusive. There's literally no excuse. Whatever you do while a substance is quote unquote controlling you, whatever you do, you can still go to jail for. If you can have legal action against you, then it's not an excuse. You're still yourself, okay? Anything you do with alcohol isn't too crazy for what you would do normally. That's just the fact. Whatever you do with alcohol is basically just an amplified version of yourself. It's not that much different. and do not let them blame the victim at all, because of the fact that it's never the victim's fault. Never, ever, never, never, never. Because, like this has said, always the abuser has to take that action. Always the abuser has to be abusive. The victim doesn't get abused unless the abuser abuses them. There's no excuse for that. You can't blame the victim if they did nothing wrong. So yeah, Queens, I'll end this out here. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I spread awareness about rape culture even more, because this is absolutely sickening. And immediately after seeing a few examples of it myself, I'm like, I had to make this video, because while I've known about it before, I didn't realize it was as prevalent as it is, and it's sad, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop immediately. So yeah, hopefully I've did my part and spread awareness about this, and you enjoy the video. So have a lovely day, and goodbye.